Hey everyone! Welcome. Today we are going live with Chris Kendall of the Raw Advantage. He is a fellow collaborator in the PlantBased Bundle, and he has contributed his 21-day winter meal plan to the bundle. So okay, I'm just gonna pin the comment here, and then hello Benny Malone, and I wanted to do two things. I wanted to show him what I've made from the bundle. I also wanted to ask him about things like anti-nutrients, and people are asking about lectins, about oxalates, about eating raw mushrooms, and things like that. Some of the questions might be quite basic, but I find that I get all these questions over and over and over again. So yeah, I thought I will do that. Yeah, so just waiting for him to join. Yeah. Hello, Asamat. Let me see. How do I request? E- there he is, the Raw Avenger. Yay, Chris is here. And let me accept. Ding, ding, ding. So if you guys have any questions about the bundle, please put them in the question box and then we can answer it. Hi, Chris!
Hey Ian, how you doing?
I am good. I'm excited. Yeah,
Yeah, me
thanks so
too. It's been
much.
too long.
I know, right? I've been wanting to reach out to you like much earlier, but I wasn't sure what my schedule was like. And then I was like, and then I realized that, hey, today I'm actually at home because there was a possibility I was out today and tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah, but today I was at home, so I was like, let me just message you and see if you can come on. Yay,
today's
I'm so happy
perfect.
you can.
It's perfect.
Oh,
It's the last day. It's a good time to connect, and a lot of people want to hear this information too. So it's really good.
yeah. So how have you been?
I've been doing really, really well. I'm excited. I've been skateboarding a lot. I've been really busy with
Oh,
work and
I
lots of
saw.
friend time. It's getting cold here, but indoor skateboarding is nice. And next week I go home to Canada to see my family for a month. The first time I've been home that long for over 3 years. So I'm
Oh,
excited.
wow. That's so
You?
exciting. Yeah, good, good. I have been making wraps and eating wraps and making all sorts of food. Like, check it
Oh, so
out!
beautiful. They're so dang good, hey?
I know this is the mahini mango curry wrap. Yeah, and I made like double the portion so that I can stuff it in with lots of stuff as well. Yeah.
Always smart to make double portions when you're making crusts and wraps and all those kinds of things,
Yeah,
right? You want to have a lot on
yeah.
hand. I got to make more of those. They're so damn good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I have had a lot of questions about. So the other day I made my carrot rendang on
Yep,
Chef AJ's show, because I have I have two courses in the bundle, the
yeah.
Christmas showstoppers course and the Taste of Indonesia course, and so this is actually a new recipe.
Ooh,
I don't know whether you've eaten. Have you ever actually had rendang before?
I've never heard of rendang. What is it?
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like so it's an Indonesian
Yep.
dish, and it's a curry, but it's a dry curry. So they kind of call it a caramelized dry stew or caramelized dry curry because
Cool.
I thought you might have had it when you were in Bali, you
You know
know.
what? It's kind of funny because like when I was in Bali, I didn't find any raw restaurants. I didn't really look for them a lot. I'll be honest. I mostly just looked for the produce. But the only thing
Right.
that I actually really ate that was kind of traditional was I
Yeah.
tried some tempeh and
Oh, okay, okay.
some raw tempeh.
All right.
But and I had raw spirulina. But otherwise, I was just going for the dragon fruits and all that stuff
Right.
and durians.
Oh yeah, 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 that's true because I don't I don't know whether they actually have any raw vegan rendang or not now that I think about it. It's usually
Yeah.
cooked because the
Oh,
ones yeah, in Bali when they have the raw stuff it's always the pad thai and
yeah.
your standard yeah, your standard raw food. Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, what I wanted to say was in this recipe, I use carrots. I also use mushrooms, and some people always ask, you know, some people going like, oh, but Dr. Furman says we have to eat it cooked, like, can we eat mushrooms raw and all that? And
Yeah.
I know you've gotten that question a lot, and I know you've done a lot of research on that. So I think you're the right person to answer this question.
Yeah, I mean, it's confusing when there's a lot of conflicting information and advice and people, reacting really strongly to it and even building conspiracy theories and stuff like that around it. I've definitely researched it really well and looked at the studies that people reference and cross-linked studies and, also just eaten them myself raw in a pretty appreciable amount for over a decade. Like I sometimes do eat like, 400 grams, like almost a pound is the most I'll usually eat in a meal, but usually it's around 200, 250 grams in a meal, and I dehydrate them a little bit.
Yeah.
But the long story short is, yes, there are certain types of mushrooms that you probably want to cook, and there's also certain types of mushrooms that you want to completely avoid raw or eating them in general, because of their poisonous nature. But for the main culinary mushrooms we're talking about in the stores and stuff like that, I haven't researched every single one, so I think it is important to kind of look at each individual mushroom to some degree. But for the culinary mushrooms that we can get our hands on, really, there's no concern. The major issues people bring up, one is that the chitin or the cell matrix is indigestible. That's the same as cellulose. I mean, maybe it's even more indigestible. It's a little bit harder than cellulose. But just like cellulose in plants, unless we chew and rupture the cell wall and free up some of the liquid and the nutrients in the liquid in the food, we're not going to get a lot from it. So some people are like, they're indigestible. Well, if you just put a mushroom in your mouth and swallow it, just like if you put a piece of lettuce in your mouth and swallow it. But if you chew it up really well, you're going to be getting a lot of the nutrition. Now, sure, could you maybe get more of certain types of nutrients cooked? Sure, but there's also some that are lost, and it's the same kind of thing with anything we're talking about raw or cooked. The other main reason people talk about with mushrooms is the agarotine content of them. And the reason why this was really brought up to be a big fear is because they did rodent studies with mice and rats. And, something that a lot of people don't really recognize, when they do studies, a lot of the times they're not actually using foods. It's not like they're feeding mice mushrooms, and then going, oh my God, they have some cancer issues or something like that. Instead, what they most often do is they make a synthetic form in an isolate. So it's just synthetic isolated agarotine, and they feed it in mega doses to see if there's any reaction. So in the major study that a lot of people point to and has always shouted about, one, they don't recognize that they're animal studies. So they're mice and rats, and it's not the same always. There's some similarities, but they're not the same. And the other component of it is they were giving mega doses equivalent to eating a year's supply of mushrooms in one day. And they've shown that it was possibly carcinogenic and possibly in that synthetic mega dose, and the funny thing is that there have been human studies afterwards, and those human studies showed no risk for carcinogenic properties or anything like that. So, when I mentioned about all types of mushrooms, I mean, if you look, and the major reason that people are concerned about eating those mushrooms raw are the agarotine content or the chitin, not a concern. But if they start talking about a separate compound that is well studied and has some issues, then maybe potentially. But I haven't really run into that unless we really go into poisonous mushrooms that are known to be poisonous and cause major issues and gut upset and stuff like that.
Yeah, but we're just talking about culinary mushrooms, the ones that we use, your crimini and your portobello and your king oyster.
Yeah, exactly. And there have been some concerns with oysters having higher levels of agarotine, but again, since the agarotine really isn't a known issue and the studies don't prove that it actually shows an issue, to me it's pretty moot. But one thing you can mention on top of that, though, too, is the agarotine content, if you are concerned about it for some reason, or if you find yourself eating lots of oyster mushrooms and stuff like that, you can put them under a UVB lamp, or you can put them out in the sun, and the UV actually does break down some of the agarotine, as well as dehydration. So I like to dehydrate my mushrooms the most. I'll slice them and I'll put them in just for an hour, just so they kind of crisp up a teeny bit, and sometimes I like to fully dehydrate them, and you throw them in sauces, and the texture is amazing, and it's really fun, right? But I'm not concerned about it. I've been studying this for a long time, and I haven't seen compelling evidence unless it's misinformed evidence, that isn't really looking at the studies and really reading them.
Oh, the next time someone asks me about this question, I shall just point them to this video.
I do have, just to say, beyond that too, if people want to dig into some other cool properties of mushrooms, I have a video called Vitamin D for Vegans or Raw Vegan, something like that. And it really goes into all the different sources of vitamin D. And mushrooms can be a very viable source of vitamin D, especially if we do put them out in the sun or we put them under a UVB lamp, which could be like a tanning lamp, or it can even be a reptile lamp. And, that can actually multiply the vitamin D content so that a small handful of mushrooms becomes a vitamin D supplement. And, having abundance of vitamin D is really important. And on a vegan diet, really the only way you're going to be getting it is mostly from supplements, the sun, or something like mushrooms.
Yeah. I remember like waiting, because where I am, in my condo, the sun only reaches my balcony about 4 p.m. So I'm like, okay, let me put it in the sun to
roof access.
Huh?
No roof access.
No, I don't think so. I mean, yeah. I mean, there are areas that have sun like early in the morning, but it's just like, I'm not going to be sitting out there.
No, of course.
With the So at my balcony, it's only I'm getting like the afternoon, like late afternoon sun.
Yeah. Well, you can always get like an inexpensive reptile light that is like a strong reptile light, and then you just put a lampshade on it upside down, and then you just put the mushrooms under the lampshade and put the lamp in there so that it just shines only on the mushrooms, and that works. You just do that for an afternoon, and, or you take a vitamin D supplement. It's either way.
Yeah, but yeah, I just try and get like during my morning walks, I just go and I just make sure that I'm like every morning I get sunlight, direct sunlight.
That's the best way anyway. Yeah. That's absolutely the best way. That's how we're designed.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah.
No, my pleasure. I love mushrooms, and it makes me sad when people have unwarranted fears around them, or when, just an old study is just passed around and people don't even refer back to it anymore. They just refer to the person who mentioned the study, and
that's right. They don't read the actual study, because sometimes the extract or just the title of the study doesn't reflect the full the full content of the entire study and the actual results as well. So
absolutely. And it's rampant within nutrition, especially in best-selling books and stuff that we'll get into a little bit more, where they may cite studies, but they don't even cite it properly. Like the study can say the exact opposite thing of what they're trying to present, but they still present it because most people never look at references. And once you put information out there, well, it's out there and people repeat it, and it just kind of snowballs, right? So it takes a lot more to undo things that people just say and repeat than to do it in the first place. It's a sad scenario with that.
Yeah. I've been getting people coming to my, videos of my what I eat in a day, saying like lectins or like oxalate bombs and all that. And I was like, oh dear. Yeah. So what is your response to that?
Yeah, it's another one of those things that is widely perpetuated in either carnivore or keto kind of movements that kind of supports their view that plants are poisonous and we should stay away from them and stuff like that, and is again one of those cases of ignoring the largest body of scientific evidence and anecdotal evidence and just historical evidence in support of basically making a lot of money with best-selling books, and supplements of their own. Going into the major cause of lots of lectin fear is Dr. Gundry's plant paradox, where he basically says that lectins are destroyers and they cause autoimmune issues and inflammation and potentially cancers, and the doom of everyone is lectins, and it's funny because you can't find any scientific references that hold any weight. He hasn't done any human studies or anything like that. No respectable nutritional scientist really agrees with what he's saying. And then on the other side, there's thousands and thousands of studies showing the benefits of these lectin-containing foods, and showing also that the people that live the longest, healthiest lives in the world, in the blue zones, they all eat lectin containing foods. And one of the main things that they see as the commonality between these is eating beans, which is like the number one thing that, you know, Dr. Gundry's like, no beans, you know. And the thing about it, you know, unless he says, he does say pressure cooking can work actually, but he's really against lectins and, you know, in all forms, even in say fruits and vegetables and tomatoes and stuff like that, you know. But the funny thing is, I mean, one, you know, again, there's no scientific credibility around this, but then also he just happens to sell lectin blockers. You know, I mean, first his book's a national bestseller, and then he sells expensive lectin blockers so you can eat these lectins and block them, you know. And it's like, it's the same thing as before, people selling carbohydrate blockers, like, oh, they're the devil, you know. And we know this isn't true, you know, we absolutely know this isn't true. And sure, there are some types of lectins, because there's many types of lectins. There are some types of lectins that are poisonous, you know, especially the most notable one is kind of funny when people talk about cooked food versus raw food. They always bring up lycopene in tomatoes. Yes! Like, oh, but if you cook it, we can go do that too. They always bring it up, you know, but when we talk about lectin, they always talk about kidney beans. It's like, yeah, like that's the one bean that I know that you can actually really get sick from and vomit and diarrhea if you eat dried kidney beans, you know. But if you soak them, or if you especially, actually, you don't soak and cook those, but I don't know any raw foodists that use raw kidney beans, you know. And I mean, if you soak and sprout, you know, lentils and stuff like that, it removes a large part of the lectins and deactivates them. And but the other thing is, there's a lot of science showing that there's actually benefits to lectins. You know, there we go. You're soaking and you're sprouting. So it's reducing that. But at the same time, there are benefits to lectins, and they do play important roles in the body, and they actually have antioxidant capacity. And, you know, they bind to carbohydrates, and they slow the absorption of carbohydrates to some degree. And they're integral in a lot of different bodily processes and hormones and in collagen and a whole bunch of things, and they're even being found to be potentially anti-cancer and antiviral in some applications as well. So, I mean, with lectins, I wouldn't, of course, eat raw kidney beans, and I wouldn't necessarily make my diet solely from sprouted beans and stuff like that. But lectins are in all plant foods, and they have an important role. And there's just no scientific evidence. This is just, again, one of the cases of, you know, people saying things. This is one of the big kind of I'd say annoyances, but also just kind of tricks within social media and within the nutritional game, is if you say something that's so fantastic that like people can't believe it, you're going to get a lot of people's eyes on it. You know, there's going to be like, oh my God, really? I can't believe that. And a lot of people promote in that kind of way, where they just throw these little knowledge bombs. They don't even have to be correct, but it's just something that kind of puts your mind in like, oh my gosh, is that real? I can't believe it. You know, and if they're wearing a stethoscope and a white jacket and they're like, I'm this, it's like, most people know not to trust doctors about nutrition, but as soon as they start talking about some really fantastic claims, like, oh my God, is it right? Is the world falling? Do we have to avoid all vegetables and never have sprouted lentils, or, you know, never have tomatoes, the deadly nightshade? And it's like, again, these foods are consistent with the best health outcomes and reversal of diseases and of preventing disease, you know, and that's not just a little bit, that's like the largest body of evidence, you know. So it's just another one of those, like, you know, silly things that makes a lot of people grab, and if it supports their worldview that, you know, fruits and vegetables are the devil and we should be eating lots of meats and dairy and all that stuff, well, they latch onto it and sing those praises, but it doesn't make it true.
Good. I'm glad you're busting all these fallacies and myths. Yeah.
You know, another cool thing about lectins too is, you know, lectins are proteins that bind with carbohydrates, and they also very consistently have probiotic fibers in them, which are really important for the microbiome, you know. So, I mean, it helps build up the gut instead of actually tearing down the gut, like they say. And while, again, you can overdo them, and if you do overdo certain types, it can be a little rough on the gut lining. But, you know, I don't know any dietary eating patterns that eat enough of them that would actually do that, unless they're just eating raw beans all the time, you know, like just all raw beans, you know. But it's just, again, one of those things. I mean, most of the people that are eating a lot of beans, they're cooking the beans, you know. Most raw fooders don't eat tons of beans. It's a little bit, and again, it's sprouted, you know, and all these foods come with so many beneficial compounds that any thought of any negatives is, to me, it's moot, you know. And a lot of people talk about the microbiome, or they talk about building muscle, and you recognize that your body needs some stressors to get stronger. Well, in small amounts, lectins can actually be a bit of a stressor, which actually helps. And it's the same with a lot of different plant compounds that people are afraid of. When you actually look deeper into them, it's like in isolate, people go, oh yeah, that makes sense, that's bad. But in conjunction, in symphony with the entire food and with our body and all the different processes that are going on all the time, these things can actually make our body stronger and more resilient and more disease resistant.
Yes, true. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. Someone had a comment about mushrooms. Let me just read it out. Like Ilona, I think she said, my local farmers market has a mushroom stall and they sell mushroom growing starters.
That's fun.
Have you grown your own mushrooms? Have you tried?
I haven't. I've definitely wild foraged, and I've seen the mushroom growing kits and stuff like that, but I've never actually grown it myself. But I've been really tempted. And I know my sister actually is growing like some turkey tail or some reishi or something. She got like a box that just sprouts them up. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's quite. I haven't actually. Funnily enough, it's quite common that people. I mean, like the mushroom kits and all that. I know. I have friends who started growing mushrooms, but somehow I didn't. Yeah, I didn't think about it. I think I'm just, happy sprouting, and then I don't eat a huge amount of mushrooms either. I mean, like, yeah, I focus more on my leafy greens and my fruits, and then I do have the mushrooms that's like kind of like that meaty flavor, but I don't really miss meat.
Yeah,
so
no,
I don't feel like, but it's nice to like, just have the mushrooms in, like I said, like my rendang or the or like your stews and things like that, or your curries. That's quite fun to have. Yeah,
they definitely bring an unmistakable like umami kind of flavor and texture, and like they're often, as you mentioned, kind of used as a meat replacement, just to have a chewier kind of thing. But something that's kind of fun too, and like I'm a champion for mushrooms, just because I think they actually play a valuable role in a raw food diet, and I think they have played a valuable role in our history as a species as well. But they contain in greater amounts certain nutrients that aren't super abundant in a typical raw food diet. They're actually decently high in chromium. They're decently high in zinc. They have iodine. They have vitamin D, which is basically not really in other plant foods. And so to me they are kind of like I wouldn't say an assurance by any means, but they are just like an extra level of nutrition and density of certain nutrients that sometimes can be a little bit harder to get if you're not eating, let's say if you're just strictly low-fat raw vegan, you're not eating any pumpkin seeds, or you're not eating, getting enough sun or any of those things. They can be a really valuable food that bolsters up your nutritional intake.
Yeah. And then I know somebody asked me this question, and I keep getting this question all the time about because when I talk about raw food and all that, and they're like, oh, but organic food is so expensive, and I'm like, but I didn't say you have to eat organic. I don't eat everything organic. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, well, in a perfect world, we wouldn't even be calling it organic. We'd just be talking about food, and we'd be getting it fresh from the ground and stuff like that. But with agriculture and all that stuff, they found certain pests and all that stuff starts to get at crops more when it's a monoculture. And so that developed, the need for pesticides. And as, the soil got depleted a bit, they started thinking about fertilizers, all this kind of stuff, right? But, I agree that optimally we want to be getting foods with the least amount of pesticide residue. If you can grow your own, if you can sprout, if you can, wild forage, if you can buy from growers that use less or minimal, I mean, that's great. We don't want excess pesticide exposure. But making it black and white, like it's not worth it, if you can't get organic or don't eat conventional, to me doesn't really make a lot of sense. I've been raw food for near 20 years, and most of what I've been eating is conventional. Like most often it's over half conventional. Yes, there are periods of time where I eat all organic. There's certain foods that in certain countries that I'll always get organic, like grapes and strawberries and apples. When I'm in the States and Canada, I always get them organic. Because if I get conventional of those, I always get a rosy kind of rosacea cheek, and I get a little bit of an itchy throat, and I don't feel as good. But when I get those here in Europe, because they have different pesticide controls and different like types of pesticides that are banned in the state or banned here aren't banned in the States, and So I don't get those same reactions. So it's not cut and dry. But people also don't recognize that, organic versus conventional isn't black and white. Conventional and organic foods are sprayed with fungicides and pesticides and rodenticides and a whole bunch of different sides. It's just they're either synthetically derived or they are naturally derived. So the organic foods have naturally derived sides. And in some cases, that's great. And in some cases, it works really well. And there's low levels of organic pesticide that aren't really that detrimental to human health. But in some cases, organic pesticides, because they're less effective, they use them in larger quantities closer to picking, and there's more residues. And sometimes those organic pesticides actually have as much or more impact on human health than some types of conventional pesticides, right? So, so it's not cut and dry. It's not black and white. At the end of the day, the nutritional value of the food is going to far surpass the detrimental qualities of any of the pesticide residues. That said, I always recommend washing when we're getting conventional, generally, or organic. I don't like to wash stuff I pick out in nature, but I think it's good to wash and to also recognize if there is something crazy like glyphosate, I can't say that word, but Monsanto Roundup or anything like that. You want to avoid those kind of crops with forever chemicals. But the standard stuff, I just think it's unwarranted to avoid fruits and vegetables in general. No matter what you can do, if you can just get more fruits and vegetables, the ones that look the best, the ones that taste the best, the ones that you like the best, I would go for them organic or conventional, and get organic when you can. Especially if it's like the same price or very comparable, and if the quality is better, if it tastes better. But for me, the number one is always what looks and tastes the best. Like I want to get the best tasting, best quality fruit. The better taste, the better nutrient profile it's going to have, the more calories it's going to have, and the more you're going to enjoy it, the more you're going to want to eat it, and the less you're going to feel restricted. Any thought pattern that causes you to feel restricted, to me, is at the very least best to question, and form a different, wider viewpoint on.
You're really good at getting all the best fruit. I like watching your stories about you going to the produce markets, or just like your whole shelf of fruit and all that. It's like, wow,
it's so fun. It's so fun. Although right now all I have grapes, which are great right now, and they're conventional, but here I don't mind, and I still wash them. I use a produce washer. It's not actually a washer. A produce cleaner is called Aqua Pure, and it's aquapure.co. I'm not an affiliate or anything, so I'm not shilling. But it's really cool because it's an ionizing device. It's not a spray or anything. So you actually just put it in the water with the produce, and you put a pinch of salt in it, and you turn it on. And what it does is the ionization process actually splits the sodium, splits the salt into sodium and, oh my gosh, chloride, geez. Splits the sodium and chloride into a weak chloride solution. And that chloride solution actually is more effective, shown to be more effective at breaking down pesticides and making them easy to wash off of than any of the other commercial sprays. And it's cool because it's, you buy it once and then all you got to do is charge it up and you can use it every time, right? So it's pretty fun. But anyways, it doesn't need to be a sales commercial, but I do use that for my produce. And right now I just have grapes, oranges, and dates for fruit. That's all I have. But
no bananas.
No bananas, but I'm going hard on the dates, and I'm loving the citrus, and the grapes are so good. I just recently had persimmons and other stuff, but I'm pretty lucky out here.
You get better persimmons than I do, because the ones that I get here are all very hard. And then I found some soft ones, but then they were from China, and then I don't know, people here are always worried about produce from China. So I was like standing there going like, should I get this? Should I not get this? In the end, I just went for local fruit instead. So I went for chiku and the sapodillas and the jackfruit and
well, those are so darn good too. I would trade persimmons for those most of the time. Sometimes when the persimmons are amazing, I would, but chico and oh gosh, all those are so darn good. Jackfruit. So good.
I'm lucky because I get jackfruit like every week, almost every week here. So
I've only had it frozen lately, and I think the last time I had, I guess I did have fresh jackfruit fairly recently, but it wasn't the same as when you have it. Like I'm sure the stuff there is like gooey and super good, and
it is. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm gonna wrap up soon because I did say it's like 30 minutes. I also need to rush off to do some other work. But yeah, maybe you want to just talk a little bit about your offering in the bundle and what the bundle's about, and then yeah, and then we can
For sure,
wrap up.
for sure. Do you have a minute? Should I talk about oxalates since we mentioned it really
Oh
briefly?
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Should I
Please,
mention that
let's do
one?
that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Sorry. Mhm.
no, and it's another common one that I see a lot of misinformation and people are really freaked out. And, like people that are carnivores saying like, oh, I tried the vegan diet and all I ate was, like kale and coconut oil. And like, yeah, if you're eating really limited foods, it's not going to really help. But oxalates, the main issue that people have with them is that they bind with nutrients. They bind with calcium and other alkaline minerals. And the other issue people say about them is kidney stones. They can cause kidney
Mm.
stones. We can hit those both really, really quick. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
it is true that oxalates bind with calcium and some alkaline minerals, but they bind with the calcium in the food itself. So it's not like you eat spinach and all of a sudden it's ravaging around your body and stealing the calcium from your bones. Um, if you think that, if you're eating a raw food diet, for example, and you're just eating spinach as your green, well, yeah, you can actually not get enough calcium, because fruits in general aren't super high. You can get enough if you eat a variety and you eat enough, but as you're eating things like figs and other like oranges, they're pretty high in calcium and iron. But in general, adding in leafy greens that don't have oxalates is to our benefit to make sure we're getting enough calcium, because other greens without oxalates have more freely available calcium. So if you're just eating spinach, yeah, you can run into issues. And I know people like Dr. Rick and Karen Dina, who they, are long-term raw vegans
Mm-hmm.
and do blood work, and they have seen people who actually have become anemic through only eating spinach and other high oxalate greens as their green intake. But as
Mm.
soon as they reduce it and start including a lot of other nutrient dense, calcium rich greens that don't have oxalate, then there's no problem. So I wouldn't say like avoid spinach or worry about oxalates, but I would say
Mm-hmm.
be aware of them and eat other foods more often as your staples. So like I still have spinach. I love it. I don't eat a lot of raw rhubarb, like a lot of the oxalate rich foods, I don't really eat a lot of. But I'm not afraid of them, and I will include them in my diet. I just don't make those dietary staples.
Yeah, we've
And
always been encouraged to rotate our greens anyway. So why
exactly,
would I mean, I'm a bit like, why would someone just eat spinach and spinach only?
yeah, it's often one people that come from a really intellectual approach, or and they just think like, well, this is the most nutritious. I should have it, and they like ignore a whole bunch of other info, or they just are lazy and they're just like, well, I can tolerate spinach. It's the only green I like, and it's like,
Right.
but the thing about different greens is sometimes they take a couple times of eating them for your body to acclimate to them and to start to really enjoy them. Like, arugula, I used
Yeah.
to hate it, and now it's one of my favorite greens. And I don't eat arugula salads, but I definitely have up to 30% of my salad with arugula, or I put arugula in green smoothies, and I find it delicious.
Mm.
But I totally agree. It's really good to mix up the greens and to enjoy the ones you enjoy, and not fear
Yeah.
oxalate containing greens, but maybe not make them the staple of your diet. You don't want to just be eating mounds and mounds of spinach every day, all day.
Yeah.
And I'll briefly just mention with the fear of kidney stones. You know,
Mm, mm.
kidney stones aren't really typically associated with high levels of plant oxalates. There are oxalates in other foods, animal foods, and stuff like that. But in our body actually creates them ourselves. But as long as we're hydrated, that's really the main way that kidney stones form. Is if you're dehydrated and you have a high amount of oxalate, then your body starts to dump the oxalate into the urine, and because you don't have enough hydration, then it starts to form stones out of the oxalate and binding with the calcium,
Ah.
or forming these oxalate calcium stones. But I
Mm.
mean, it's another thing that's kind of moot with a high fruit and vegetable based diet, because it's one of the more hydrating diets. And
Yeah,
as long as
exactly.
you're like peeing and like peeing relatively clear and drinking water and not thinking that water is the devil and you should only get your water from fruit and vegetable, well, this is again, your body's just gonna urinate it out and it's not gonna cause an issue. And there's another thing too, if you're eating like citrus and lemons and stuff like that, it actually also helps with the body's secretion of the oxalate and not forming stones. So it's in the
Mm,
context of a
mm.
fruit and vegetable heavy diet, this is kind of a moot point. I think more so the issue with oxalates is the binding of calcium And again, as long as you're not just only eating spinach and rhubarb and high oxalate foods, it's a moot point as well. Just eat other greens.
Yeah, because when I buy my organic veggies online because it's much cheaper, and I get at least 10 different kinds of greens, a week or more. So I'm always very confused when people go like, oh, like you should eat spinach, like, oh, and I'm like, it's just like 250 grams of spinach a week. That's so little.
Yeah,
because I'm doing like kailan and bok choy and like 4 or 5 different kinds of lettuce, like butterhead lettuce, romaine lettuce, green leaf lettuce, like everything. So it's like, I don't know.
I love all those Asian greens. They're some of my favorite. They're often heartier, and they're got really rich flavors. Sometimes a little bit of the spice, and they're often even more nutrient dense and usually cheaper too. Like not all of them, but I find that typically Napa cabbage and bok choy per pound is cheaper than say arugula or romaine. And yeah, I absolutely love them all, and I'm not worried about it. I mean, even in the context of I've had periods of time where I ate predominantly spinach for like a week or two because I got a deal on a couple cases, and even in that situation, I'm not worried about it. I'm talking more about months and years. It's not like you eat like spinach for a few days and you're gonna have kidney stones and you're gonna be calcium deplete. It's like no, if you only ate spinach as your greens for months, then you might be getting into issues, but even then, some people would think that's controversial, but with blood tests and actual people running into issues on a raw vegan diet, really heavy on spinach, I think it warrants the notice that it is way more beneficial to switch it up and not just rely on high oxalate greens.
Yeah.
But not be afraid of them.
Exactly. Because I had a friend, we went out to eat, and then he was so afraid to touch the spinach. And this was like a cooked spinach. I was like, look at him like, what? You want to eat this? Like, no, it's got oxalates, no. It's just like, there's so much fear. It's like, okay.
Leave fear to, predators trying to chase you. When we're talking about fruits and vegetables, if you're afraid of eating fruits and vegetables, unless maybe it's like an unripe ackee, which can kill you, or like raw kidney beans, which can give you diarrhea and vomiting.
But who wants to eat raw kidney beans? I'm like, that argument doesn't hold. Who on earth is going to eat raw kidney beans?
It's mostly been an accident. I guess there's a story of a vegan festival where they ran out of other foods to serve the raw foodists, so they had dry kidney beans and they made like a bean pate and didn't realize this, and everyone got diarrhea and sick and was hospitalized. But it's really rare and not many people, and that is the number one. Just like I said, like the lycopene in tomatoes, it's like everyone says kidney beans, like, oh my God, lectins. It's like, okay, avoid those ones, right? Because that type of lectin does really cause issues, so.
Oh man. Yeah. But this was good. This was really good.
Such a pleasure. So a fun topic, and it's good to dispel some of these myths and create less fear around really healthy foods that have so much going for them, and it's like, I would like to say it's like, I don't worry about the anti-nutrients. I don't worry about the nutrients. I don't worry. I focus on the foods I love. And I think that's the easiest thing. Just focus on the plant foods you love, explore new ones, discover new ones you love. And as you get tired of them, switch them up. That's the different anti-nutrients and the different nutrients. We want the perfect amount, and once we get to a point where we're oversaturated in any potential anti-nutrient that starts to accumulate or any potential nutrient that starts to accumulate, we automatically are vectored towards new foods. Like our body is so smart. Like if you're eating, you're paying attention, you'll be like, I'm kind of over this. Well, there's probably a reason. You don't really need to know it. It's just, okay, well, let's focus on something I love. And then you'll get the nutrition sufficiency from there. And, it's just a beautiful, easy way to look at it. And we don't really need to worry about this when we're talking about fruits and veggies.
Yep. Ooh, Watermelon and Lime has a request. She says, Chris, make raw Chef Yin's gingerbread cookies.
I got to check them out. They're in the holiday course, okay? Or the
the Christmas showstoppers course. Yes, there's gingerbread cookies. I think she just made them. I think she put a story up. Was it yesterday? She made them. But I know you've made my durian cookies. So
I have made the durian cookies, and they're really tasty.
Yeah, that's not in this, but bundle. This bundle is my Christmas showstoppers and my Indonesia course. And you have your
21-day winter
21 day
meal plan.
winter meal plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I made
Which is lots of fun.
banana, was it the romaine one? Romaine monkey.
Yeah, romaine.
Because I was
monkey.
like, yeah, because I was so busy and I was like, oh, I don't have time to do it. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna make this recipe by Chris because this is like super easy. Yeah,
I'm the laziest chef, Ian. I'm so lazy.
No, it's good because a lot of people just want simple recipes. I just got a message from another lady. She said she just bought the bundle, but you know she doesn't have a dehydrator and all that. And she just wants like she wanted me to point out what are the simple recipes. So I was going to tell her to check out your your winter meal plan because a lot of like your lunches are all very easy and simple. I've tried I've tried some of them as well. The celery. I think was it the celery blue 2 or something like that. You have cute names as well. Very cute names.
Yeah. I have the most fun making up the names, and sometimes they're not super creative, but I like pine double apple. That's one of my favorites. It's just pineapple and apple pudding, and you just like our sauce. And it sounds funny, but pine double apple is so tasty. Some blend half of it and chop up a whole bunch of them together. It's like so good.
Yeah, it's like eating dessert.
Yeah, we get to eat dessert all day. We're pretty damn lucky.
Yes, we are. Okay, Chris, I think I'll have to go now, but thank you so much for your time. And for those who just to let you guys know, there's I think less than 17 hours left to the plant-based bundle. So check it out. The links are in our bios. You get 130 plus ebooks and courses for only $50. So my 2 video courses are in it, and then Chris 21 day winter meal 21 day winter meal plan is in it. And also if you want to make like raw vegan hard shell tacos, Lisa's new and updated raw vegan taco ebook is in as well. And then if you want to make the wraps, her hand salads book is in the bundle. And then if you want to make this raw vegan cheese, this is in the ebook Raw by the Art of Raw Food. There's also flackers that goes with the cheese as well. It's so cute. So Lori Landry Wellness, she has a flax cracker recipe and she calls it flackers.
Oh, flackers.
So
I'm down for some flackers.
I had some flackers and some cheese together, and lots of other cool things as well, workouts, yoga. There's some raw ebooks on raw for kids as well. I think Raw and Radiant has it. Raw Vegan Mama Kate also has like 2 ebooks on that, lunch boxes and also after school snacks. And Darlene has a yoga for pregnancy as well. So really cool stuff. So check it out. Link in our bio. Like I said, less than 17 hours. So it's the last few hours for you guys to get it.
Okay. You're going to want to check it out because when it's gone, it's gone. And every single time I get many people messaging, oh, can I still get the bundle? It's like,
yeah, me too. I'll be like, no, oh, sorry. We've been talking about this for like a whole week. So
people are either, you're talking about this too much, or I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
We're trying our best here. We're just trying our best here. It's a ridiculous deal. So we know that you'll be impressed if you check it out. And even if you've gotten a bundle in the past, I know there's 35 resources that are new to this bundle. And I believe there's 34 that are raw specific. And like you said, there's so many different, it's not just diet, it's lifestyle and fitness and all that stuff. So it's worth a gander, worth a holiday gander. And if you're not sure about a Christmas gift for somebody, this is a good one too, because you can actually just have it to their email and send it to them as a gift. So kind of nice.
Yeah. So, okay, thanks everyone for joining us, and thank you so much, Chris, for all your tips and advice and your well-researched knowledge and sharing with us. And I guess I'll see you. See you another
bundle.
Time.
And otherwise, also see you in cyberspace on the stories. And if you ever want to do a live in between bundles, let me know too.
I will. I will. And I do want to. If you're hosting a raw retreat in Sweden, do let me know. I do want to go to Sweden if it's not too cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can't
well,
go
there
and
is one. I think we're doing one in late May. It's just like a three day
oh,
retreat,
okay.
mini retreat. So that
All
we can
right.
talk more about that. And
Yeah,
I do want
yeah,
to
yeah.
briefly mention if you can add me as a collaborator, I'd love to share this talk on my
Oh,
wall as well.
yes.
Yeah. And
Definitely. I will do that. Yeah, yeah.
sweet,
Okay
sweet.
then. All
Well,
right
thanks so
then.
much, Ian. I hope you have a
No
good night. 'Cause you're
problem.
almost going into bedtime now. Hey, well, not quite, but you're getting later.
Yeah, getting late. It's 8:45. I still have some work to do, and then I'll try and go to sleep by 10. But with the bundle, I've been sleeping late because yeah, usually I sleep by 10:30. But I think with the bundle, I've been sleeping late and getting up early. You know how it is.
Yeah.
But
I've been
today I
doing the
was like,
opposite, staying up late and waking up late. Yeah.
that's a life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is
Live
life. Yes.
living the raw rock star life, I tell you.
You are. You are. Yeah. All right, then you have a good day, Chris,
You
and
too.
I'll see you guys another time.
Have a good one. Thanks so
Bye.
much. See you, everyone.
You're welcome. Bye bye.